Have you ever noticed how a tiny monthly payment can feel perfectly harmless, almost responsible, and yet 10 years later, your bank account looks the same while everyone around you seems to be moving up? Why does something labeled affordable so often become the thing that keeps people from getting ahead? Let me show you a common story that plays out across the US and Europe. Imagine Anna. She's 28, works in marketing, earns about $60,000 a year before tax in the US, roughly $3,800 take-home per month after income tax and social deductions. In Europe, the numbers shift, but the pattern is the same. Decent gross salary, middling net pay after taxes and mandatory contributions. Anna pays $1,200 a month in rent. That leaves her about $2,600 for everything else: utilities, food, commuting, small pleasures. She's careful, at least by surface standards. She has a $350 monthly car loan, EMI, a $150 minimum on a credit card, and $200 a month towards student loans. Add 3 streaming subscriptions and a few apps for about $40. She treats herself to dinners out twice a month, which costs another $150. Total essentials and recurring commitments add up quickly. Now, a year later, she gets a raise. Instead of saving, she upgrades: a nicer car with a lower down payment and a monthly payment of $500 instead of $350. The dealer offers a 0% for 36 months plan and flexible EMIs. It sounds reasonable, affordable even. After all, it's just $150 more per month. Why not? Here's where the math stops being innocent. On the surface, $150 extra per month doesn't hurt, but compound that over time. $150 times 12 equals $1,800 per year. Over 5 years, it's $9,000. That's not including interest or opportunity cost, or the fact the 0% may be temporary and accompanied by fees. More importantly, that extra $150 raises Anna's baseline spending. The next raise pays for a slightly bigger apartment, new furniture, or more dining out. Lifestyle creep has begun. Let's add a clearer example with round numbers. Suppose Anna could instead invest that $150 monthly into a conservative index fund averaging 6% annually. After 10 years, that $150 monthly becomes approximately $24,000. After 20 years, it's roughly $61,000. Replace those returns with retirement accounts or even extra mortgage principal, and the long-term difference becomes dramatic. The car upgrade didn't just cost $9,000 in payments, it cost years of compounded growth and future optionality. There's a second layer: financing tricks. Flexible payments, interest-free periods, deferred payments. These are structured to make the present pain disappear. When pain vanishes, behavior changes. We start to treat future obligations like they're someone else's problem. That affordable EMI is really an anchor. It forces future budgets to accommodate past decisions. Why do otherwise smart people make this mistake? The psychology is straightforward and quietly powerful. First, anchoring and normalization. If your peers have a certain standard, a car, a certain apartment, that becomes the social baseline. You adjust your expectations upward without realizing you're indexing happiness to other people's choices. Second, temporal discounting. Immediate satisfaction outweighs abstract future benefits. Humans overweight today and underweight tomorrow, even when tomorrow has far more potential value. Third, identity signaling. Purchases become shorthand for "I've arrived" or "I deserve this," especially after a raise. Those feelings feel good, they feel like progress, but feelings aren't financial plans. There's also moral bookkeeping. We tell ourselves, "I worked hard, I can afford this." That's true in the short run. The issue is that afford is not the same as optimal. Affordable monthly payments often prioritize present identity maintenance over future flexibility. If this pattern continues, the long-term impact is subtle but severe. A decade of incremental upgrades, slightly better car, a marginally larger apartment, an extra subscription or two, compounds into less liquidity, less investable capital, and more time spent servicing payments. When the big shocks arrive, job loss, medical emergency, an opportunity that requires capital, people with many affordable payments have far fewer options. They can't pivot. They're tied to a lifestyle that looks stable until it isn't. Now shift perspective. How do financially intelligent people think and act differently? Not through austerity or depravity, and not by worshiping frugality as a virtue. They think in terms of optionality and opportunity cost. They treat each recurring payment as a long-term decision, not a one-off expense. Before accepting a new monthly commitment, they ask hard, specific questions to themselves. Does this payment increase my future options or reduce them? What could I do with the same amount if I didn't spend it? Would I still buy this if my income stopped tomorrow? They also separate identity from consumption. Instead of buying to signal status, they invest in capabilities, skills, financial buffers, investments that compound. They understand that small, regular actions accumulate, often quietly and invisibly, into real freedom. They tolerate short-term friction to preserve long-term optionality. To be concrete without being prescriptive, imagine Anna, after a second raise, pauses for 2 months, calculates where the extra $150 goes, and compares that with the projected future value if invested. She asks whether a slightly older car could meet her needs and whether she can live on the same core budget for a year. That pause, not a dramatic lifestyle overhaul, just a deliberate pause, preserves options. Over time, it translates into choices: an earlier down payment on a house, a buffer for career transitions, or the ability to say yes to a better job that pays less now but more later. This isn't about being a miser, it's about clarity. Affordable monthly payments are seductive because they feel responsible in the moment, but responsibility has a timeline. True financial responsibility looks beyond the immediate monthly checkbox. It recognizes that every recurring payment is a contract with your future self. If you walk away with one practical mental shift today, let it be this: treat new monthly commitments as permanent decisions. Measure them not by comfort today, but by the options they create or close for tomorrow. No dramatic promises here. Practically minded people who make this shift don't instantly become wealthy. They do, however, avoid a slow squeeze on their options, and that, over years, becomes the difference between feeling stuck and feeling free. If this perspective was useful, consider subscribing for more calm, evidence-based takes.